In 1942, a disc-shaped aircraft took off, climbed, and landed at 22 miles per hour without stalling. The Navy called it the Flying Pancake. It solved a deadly problem and then disappeared. That story begins on a 500-foot carrier deck. A World War II escort carrier offered barely 500 feet of deck, less than the length of a city block. Navy planners faced a relentless arithmetic. A fighter needed to land and stop, or take off and climb, in a space so tight that a single miscalculation could send a plane into the sea. Official records show that nearly a third of carrier aircraft losses came not from enemy action, but from landing accidents, planes overshooting the deck, stalling on approach, or breaking apart under sudden impact. The numbers told a grim story: 30% lost to the unforgiving geometry of steel, wind, and water. Engineers and commanders studied deck diagrams, ran calculations, and watched as pilots wrestled with the limits of physics. The challenge was clear: make an aircraft that could fly slower, land softer, and use every foot of that short runway. The pressure to find a solution grew with every lost plane and every battered pilot. The Navy's Bureau of Aeronautics put its demands in writing. Specification BUAIR S-442, issued in late 1941, called for an aircraft that could take off in no more than 200 feet and land at speeds below 30 miles per hour. These numbers were not suggestions. They were the official yardstick for any new design that hoped to serve on America's short-deck carriers. Traditional fighters simply could not meet these thresholds without risking disaster. To solve the problem, the Navy opened the door to radical proposals. Engineers were invited to submit concepts that broke with convention, so long as they could deliver on the promise of ultra-short takeoff and gentle, stall-resistant landings. This was not a time for half measures or incremental tweaks. The performance mandate made room for ideas that looked outlandish, even impossible, if they offered a real chance at safer, more reliable carrier operations. Against this backdrop, Charles H. Zimmerman and the Vought team advanced their disc wing concept, a flying machine that, on paper, could meet every line of the Navy's brief. The formal specification set the stage for a prototype that would test the limits of aerodynamics and imagination. The prototype, rolled out in 1942, looked like it belonged in a comic book, not on a Navy airfield. Officially, it was the Vought V-173, but everyone called it the Flying Pancake. Its shape was almost perfectly round, just over 23 feet across, resembling a giant flat disc with a stubby cockpit perched near the front edge. Instead of slender wings, the entire body served as a lifting surface. Two enormous wooden propellers, each measuring 16.5 feet from tip to tip, dominated the leading edge. These propellers spun in opposite directions, powered by a pair of compact engines hidden inside the wing. The landing gear stood far apart, giving the aircraft a wide, low stance, and the twin vertical fins at the back looked almost like small, upturned tabs. To anyone seeing it for the first time, the V-173 seemed less like an airplane and more like an experiment in defying common sense. Yet this improbable machine was the product of serious engineering, led by Charles H. Zimmerman, who believed that a disc-shaped wing could unlock new possibilities for flight. The result was a prototype that challenged every expectation about what an aircraft should look like, and hinted at the radical performance the Navy was searching for. Test flights at Patuxent River delivered the proof the Navy demanded. The V-173 touched down at just 22 miles per hour, slower than most cars idle in a parking lot. This was not a one-off trick. Navy observers recorded landing after landing at these walking speeds, with the aircraft remaining fully controllable all the way to the ground. Takeoff rolls were just as remarkable. The Flying Pancake could leave the runway in under 200 feet, sometimes much less with a headwind. On the cramped decks of World War II escort carriers, those numbers were not just impressive, they were essential. Pilots found they could hold the nose high, even at steep angles, without the sudden drop or spin that spelled disaster for conventional fighters. Instead of stalling, the V-173 would simply settle gently, giving the pilot time to react. These test results matched the Navy's written requirements line by line: landings at 22 miles per hour, takeoffs under 200 feet, and a stall that never truly arrived. The data left no doubt this improbable machine could do what the brief demanded, and it did so with a margin that seemed to defy the usual rules of flight. The secret behind the flying Pancake's slow-speed magic lies in the way its giant propellers flood the entire wing with a constant stream of fast-moving air. Unlike ordinary planes, which rely on moving forward to keep air flowing over their wings, the V-173's spinning blades create a powerful slipstream that blankets the disc-shaped surface. This artificial wind keeps the airflow glued to the wing, even when the aircraft creeps along at walking pace. Wind tunnel tests and flight data showed that this prop wash could boost lift by as much as 50%, enough to keep the aircraft flying safely at speeds where most planes would stall and drop. The result is a design that can lift off, climb and land with full control, all thanks to a clever use of airflow that turns the entire wing into a low-speed powerhouse. Wind tunnel films captured tufts streaming smoothly over the entire disc, even as the propellers spun at idle speeds. Smoke traces showed no sign of the abrupt separation that signals a stall. Test pilots reported they could haul the nose up to 45 degrees and never trigger a spin. The V-173 simply refused to stall. Its lift held steady, its controls stayed alive, and every landing played out with the same gentle, predictable descent. The data, the footage, and the pilot logs all pointed to the same conclusion. This strange aircraft had made stall-free flight a reality. Today, radical ideas still shape aviation's future, and they remind us that the impossible only stays impossible until someone proves otherwise. What boundary will the next flying Pancake quietly move?